The evening was bright and elegant at the Rosewood Grand, one of New York City's most luxurious restaurants. The chandeliers glittered like falling stars, soft jazz played in the background, and the air was filled with the aroma of gourmet dishes. Tonight wasn't just an ordinary dinner, it was the night of a $5 billion corporate deal that could change the future of two giant companies. Every detail had been planned with precision. At the center of this high-profile meeting sat Richard Wallace, a billionaire CEO known for his ruthless business sense and cold demeanor. Tall, broad-shouldered, and always sharply dressed, Richard carried himself with an air of superiority. People either respected him or feared him. Across the table sat Thomas Gray, an influential investor from London who was known for his sharp eye for talent and his unshakable values. Thomas had flown across the Atlantic for this meeting, not just to discuss numbers, but to gauge the true character of the man who would be his business partner. The staff of the restaurant had been instructed to provide flawless service. Among them was Maya Johnson, a 24-year-old black waitress working the evening shift. Maya had been juggling two jobs to support her younger brother's college tuition. She wasn't just working for tips, she was fighting for her family's future. She walked with quiet grace, her tray balanced perfectly, and a soft but professional smile on her face. As the evening progressed, the atmosphere grew tense. Richard was trying to impress Thomas, boasting about his wealth, his properties, and the number of companies he controlled. But Thomas wasn't fully convinced. He didn't just invest in businesses, he invested in people. And something about Richard's arrogance unsettled him. The breaking point came when Maya carefully approached the table with their next course. She placed a dish in front of Richard with steady hands, but just as she was about to set down the glass of wine, a small drop spilled on the edge of the CEO's napkin. It wasn't much, barely noticeable. Maya quickly apologized in her soft, polite voice. But Richard snapped. "Are you stupid?" he barked, loud enough for the entire restaurant to hear. His voice cut through the elegant atmosphere like a blade. "You can't even serve a glass of wine properly? This is why people like you are only good for carrying trays." The room went silent. Guests froze, forks suspended in midair. Maya's face flushed red, her eyes welling up with tears. She lowered her gaze, biting her lip to hold back the pain. It wasn't just about the spilled drop, it was the way he said, "People like you." The weight of centuries of prejudice and humiliation echoed in that moment. Thomas sat back in his chair, shocked. He watched Maya struggle to compose herself, offering a soft, "I'm sorry, sir," before quietly stepping back. But Thomas didn't look at her, he looked at Richard. And in that instant, he saw everything he needed to know. "Richard," Thomas said calmly, his British accent slicing through the silence. "That was unnecessary." Richard smirked, waving his hand dismissively. "Unnecessary? Please. If she can't handle a simple job, she deserves to be called out. I don't tolerate incompetence." But Thomas's expression didn't soften. He leaned forward, folding his hands. "You see, Richard, I believe how a man treats those beneath him says more about his character than how he treats his equals. Money can build an empire, but respect and integrity, those build legacies." The words struck like a gavel in a courtroom. Everyone at the table felt the shift. Richard tried to laugh it off, but the smile never reached his eyes. Thomas stood, buttoning his suit jacket. "I had considered this partnership seriously. $5 billion is not a small investment. But I cannot, in good conscience, align myself with someone who belittles others so easily. If this is how you treat a young woman serving your meal, I can only imagine how you treat your employees." The restaurant gasped. Richard's face turned pale, his arrogance crumbling in an instant. He stammered, "Wait, Thomas, don't overreact. It was just a waitress. She doesn't matter." But that was the final straw. Thomas turned to Maya, who stood silently near the corner, her eyes downcast. "Young lady," he said gently, "you matter more than you realize. And tonight, the world will know it." With that, Thomas extended his hand to Maya. She hesitated, then slowly shook it, her trembling fingers meeting his firm grip. Cameras from diners' phones were already rolling. Within hours, The video of the billionaire humiliating a black waitress and losing a $5 billion deal because of it went viral on social media. Hashtag Justice for Maya trended worldwide. Millions applauded Thomas for standing up, while Richard's company faced an avalanche of backlash. Stockholders panicked, shares plummeted, and within days, the empire Richard had bragged about began to crumble. Maya, on the other hand, was invited on talk shows, her story celebrated as a symbol of dignity and resilience. Offers for scholarships and new career opportunities poured in. She wasn't just a waitress anymore, she became a voice for countless people who had suffered silently in the shadows of prejudice. And Richard? His name became a cautionary tale. The man who once believed money gave him the right to belittle others lost billions, not because of the market, not because of business rivals, but because of his own arrogance and a single cruel word. In the end, the world didn't remember him as a powerful CEO. They remembered him as the man who called a black waitress stupid and lost everything.